good start that the panel background looks good and that the speakers are happy about it. Well, so I think it's our first brand panel on the RTL Beach for this beginning of the week. And so we told everyone this morning that the overarching topic for our RTL Beach in Cannes this year is trust. So I'm super glad that we talked about trust. And well, the difference about the RTL Beach, like compared to all the players that are around, is that we are European art. So our goal was to speak about trust in Europe with, let's say, global CMO, global media leaders that have to operate Europe between other territories and so they can tell us how challenging it is. And like they get some very, very good backstories for you. So please, first a round of applause for our panelists, Joy Howard from Back Market, Dave Kersey from Shark Ninja, Caroline Proto for EssilorLuxottica. So yeah, first question to you guys. We're talking about trust, which is a very large concept, of course, but I think in an attempt to introduce you and your brand, I'd like to hear from you maybe what trust specifically means for the brand you're working on. Yeah, and what kind of messaging do you do attached to trust? And maybe Caroline, to start with you, what does trust mean for EssilorLuxottica?
That's a great question. I think from a trust perspective, what's really important for us is that the consumer knows that what we're providing fulfills their needs and that the value of our product is also meeting that same need, that what we're bringing to market for them is up to the standards they expect, we're listening to them, and we've really taken the time to produce and provide a product that they're looking for. So that is a big piece of trust for us.
Dave, what about Shark Ninja? What does trust look like for Shark Ninja?
I think it's the same. I mean, consumers are looking to purchase products, right? Every product, whether it's yours or mine, tons of competitors in the space. For Shark Ninja, we're in 39 product categories. Each of those product categories have a number of competitive brands there, right? So consumers looking for quality, product innovation, and solutions, right? Kind of what you're saying too. So for us, that's an important factor. And really, our business was based on building 5-star products. And consumer reviews are so critical to our success because when consumers love our brands, they talk about our products, they talk about our products. So that's one factor of trust for us. And we continue to innovate and bring more iterations to continue that trust with consumers. And so we drive that passion. I would say on the media side, it's trust in knowing who you're reaching and how you're getting them from point A to point Z. With omni-channel planning, omni-channel activation, you're able to now see the through line from big screen to little screen to conversion to all of that. And that's really important for us too.
And I think like everybody's a Shark Ninja fan in the audience. Who likes Shark Ninja product? Yeah, we have one fan.
Everyone raise your hand.
Everyone raise their hands. And finally, about back market, I think trust is like a super important component, and you're selling Shark Ninja products as well on the platform. So, Joy, what can you tell us about trust and back market?
I mean, trust is actually our number one barrier to growth. Okay, because people love the brands on our platform. They love the proposition. They love the idea of saving money. They love the idea of doing something that's better for the environment. We're a re-commerce platform. So people love the proposition, but their number one worry is it actually going to work? So we have actually launched something called the Back Market Promise. And interestingly, this came out of France, where France is our home market. And it's a great example of how innovation can happen globally, where the French found just like a much smarter way to say it, and then we just kind of like rebranded it everywhere else in the world based on the French concept. So we can roll film and have a look at it.
Okay, so sorry.
Maybe. These things are always janky at
What is the Back Market Promise? It's a commitment to quality that begins way before you click Add to Cart. At world-class, trusted refurbishers like this one. Hey guys! Every single device undergoes an up to 100-point quality and performance inspection. How good is the battery? Does the screen work perfectly? And is it polished? Like literally. The device is thoroughly cleaned and sanitized before being securely packed and shipped off to you for free. Of course, we don't have any footage of what happens when it gets to you, but we know that you'll be happy with it. And if you're not, don't worry. When you check out, we check in. The back market promise means free 30-day returns, a 1-year warranty, and live customer care. Because a promise is a promise. The back market promise.
I think you can feel trust at every second of the commercial.
I trust it so much more.
Oh my God, thank you so much. It's working.
It's working, huh? Even on Dave. That's amazing. Well, Joy, to continue with you, well, let's go to Europe because, well, we know there's something about Europe and trust. How do you achieve trust across multiple markets in Europe?
Well, it's very different by market, unfortunately. So it's, we have one mix that works really well for us in the US and the UK. Most of our marketing is very humorous. That's kind of how we get attention.
I think we have examples.
So these are some examples. And actually, I'm sharing most of the ones that people have shared because we have very provocative creative. And part of how we extend our reach is by having people get it. They get the joke. They like it. Obviously, the only thing that's more trustworthy than TV is out of home. People think, wow, okay, this is a big brand. So we build trust by having people, first of all, notice what we're doing. And then second, think, oh, wow, this brand gets me. Like, they really understand who I am. And so it's very provocative. It's very funny. It's very attention-getting. And, this is basically how we build our awareness is through this kind of creative. And I loved what you said about reviews because I think what's much more meaningful is what other people say about you. So for our number one creative metric is, are people sharing the creative? And what you can see here is people relate to it, they get it, they share it, okay? But it doesn't work everywhere. So these are obviously ads, from the US, from the New York subway. This one about AI, AB is greater than AI. That went viral on Substack. This is from Soho in the UK. This is also New York subway. Tony Fadell, inventor of the iPod, wrote a little essay about the ad when he saw it. So stuff like that's very cool. But in France, where the penetration of this market is so much higher, okay, people understand it, we have a very different message. So I think we'll just show one more. Okay.
Here it is.
So here, what we're doing in France, you can see this, the visual consistency is super important. The tone of voice, super important. This is also how you build trust, you guys, with consistency and coherence. But on this, it's like a softer humor. And the tagline is not downgrade now, which is the provocative tagline that's gone so viral in the US and the UK. The tagline in France is flambant vieux, which is like a pun on brand new. It basically means like flaming old, but it's kind of a pun on brand new. And every single thing that we do is kind of a pun. So this is basically like, usually you see like the new spring collection. This is the last spring collection, right? Because these are the phones from last year. So we put these in the subway where people have time to kind of think about it and get the pun. It's not something you can drive by and like get it right away. It's humor. And this is how we build trust, by consistently showing up in this way, but differently.
Yeah, Caroline, you told me about being viral as well in Europe, right?
Yeah, I think for us, what we've really done is, as a global brand, obviously EssilorLuxottica, our portfolio is quite large, but drilling down specifically, let's talk about the brand Sunglass Hut. We're a global brand. We, of course, have a global brand identity, but we understand that each market truly needs local intricacies. And that level of virality that's needed on a local level, especially in EMEA, there's such a sense of pride from each individual country and region, and they want to know that you as a brand recognize that and lean into it. So for us this year, we've really focused on finding the right creator or spokesperson from a local level to fit within our brand guidelines in that market. So for example, we're going to show an example here. We used Mel C in London. We did a pop-up out of home, and we had her come do a DJ set. We had editorial coverage. So we really made sure there was 360 legs on this local creator-led campaign.
So nothing better than a Spice Girl to excite the chaps in the UK and get their trust. Sexy.
It was important for us, I think, thank you. It was important for us, the London community, to recognize that we recognize what they're looking for, who they want to see, and we really kind of took over Covent Garden. We had taxis and digital vans circling for 2 weeks. So it was really this moment for us to own the moment, while owning your moment in London for us.
Okay, but I guess that's something you need to plan ahead with a roadmap.
100%. Obviously, securing local talent, spokespersons, and the larger spokesperson really requires a much longer lead time. So we work for up to a year of really setting our brand guidelines and kind of building then those local intricacies within them to allow time to make sure that this strategy is able to come to life the way we need.
But yeah, planning 1 year in advance, Dave. This is the road to success in Europe for Shark Ninja as well.
You said 12 to 18 hours planning?
Same, 12 to 18 months, 12 to 18 hours.
We move really fast. Our model is based on speed, volume, and scale. And so our model's a lot different in that regard, but we are social first. That's the unique way we get into conversation, we connect with culture, and we start with influencers. And I think when we look at global markets, or especially across EMEA, like you said, there's a lot of expectation from local markets that the brand respects them, respects their culture. And so translating your US or your global playbook into each market without localizing it with nuances, you're probably not set up to win. So we have a pretty structured way to go to market. We don't plan 12 months ahead. We do plan 12 hours ahead. And it's influencer driven. It's content creation. And we're, in platform at all hours of the day to capitalize on a moment. Seblanca in the finals, French Open. She used one of these. This is our chill pill. It has a cryo, a misting. It's a personal fan. So you should get one. Sharkninja.com. And she used it. We, partnered with her, but she was in the finals. It was just a great moment to capitalize. And we just amplified that, slowed everything else down, and sold out across Europe. Also, there was the first heat wave. Now we're clearly in the second heat wave. But that's how we maximize our business and how we plan. We just want to get into culture, be relevant, be authentic, and do it at a local level.
And talking about Europe, of course, you have a global playbook and you have a way to go to market, Dave. But we mentioned it in the prep call. Sometimes it just doesn't work. And yeah, it doesn't work in one particular country in Europe. And I think you had a very good example about a country that's very dear to my heart where it failed. So why and how?
It's France. It's just it's a trickier market because there is a lot of pride. Everything you said. Oh, there, I was giving you everything you said. I think the French want brands that are either French specific, and they don't want new brands coming in. We don't have a big Shark Ninja brand identity. Our products are technically our brands and our portfolio of brands. That's how we win. That's truly our model. And we tried using the playbook and localizing it to the French culture, and it didn't work for us. So we had to create an actual new playbook for France to make sure we win in the marketplace. We're seeing some incremental gains at this point, but it really took us to say, take a step back. Our global playbook doesn't work. What do we need to do? We need localized operations so we can understand the pace of the market and how we actually go to market similar to how they're accustomed to going to market. From an external perspective, who are those influencers that matter to the French culture, to the French people? So we can build partnerships with them versus assuming that some of our global brand ambassadors are going to translate across markets.
So the difference is you work with French influencers, or what else is the difference?
It's a little bit of what you said too. Like, I think our messaging has to change, right? It has to be more resonant to what they're expecting or what makes sense from their cultural perspective. So it's messaging, it's content creators, and then it's how we choose our media channels and how we connect with consumers, because that go-to-market playbook had to be re-engineered as well. So it's really all three.
So I have panelists moderating each other, which is excellent for moderators. But failing in one country when you apply a global playbook. Joy, Caroline, does it ring a bell? Did you experience a similar situation in Europe?
In France, but I'll use a different example so we can kind of spread out here. So keeping with Sunglass Hut, since we just showed that, the name Sunglass Hut in Spain actually doesn't translate. So from a brand awareness standpoint, it has really required us to take that kind of global playbook, bring it down to the local intricacy, and then understand that there's certain mediums that just won't work if our brand name is not translating in that local language. For example, audio. So what do we do from an audio perspective that will be a little bit easier for the consumer to understand from an awareness standpoint? So instead of traditional audio, do we instead look at podcasts where not only can they talk about the brand name, but also all of the brand attributes, so that it kind of creates that connection piece between the misinterpretation of the brand name, but then people kind of understanding, oh, Sunglass Hut's the house of brands. They have Ray-Ban, Prada, Oakley, Burberry. It helps kind of close that gap. So that's a good example.
Okay, so you need the time and attention where your brand
Exactly.
is not so understood to
Exactly.
better capture the interest. Joy, Back Market is a French brand. So did you fail in France as well, or
No,
is it
definitely
another market?
not. No, France is our bread and butter. So yeah, no, we've not failed in France, but yeah, but like France, we found Germany challenging. So I'm sure the French can relate to the challenge from the Germans. But anyway, so yeah, Germany's been hard for us. We have this playbook that works really well in dense urban areas, buying out of home, super good. But the urban areas in Germany are not as densely populated. So, and there's just not that kind of, subway vibe that there is in Paris and New York and Chicago and London. So, so the media has been really challenging for us. And once you decide you need new media, then you got to have different creative, because platform fluency is really everything. It's certainly everything in social, but it's definitely the same way in any kind of media channel. So, so we have started doing a lot of online video, and we're about to go into connected TV. But just to give you a sense of how different the message is, this is a message actually that works for us mid-funnel and other markets. And the ironic thing about Germany is they're so rational. We also have a lot of competition there. So a lot of messaging that we would normally use like mid and lower funnel, we actually push it up the funnel in Germany with great results. So here's an example of a mid-funnel asset that we just pushed out through TV, and it was gangbusters.
Okay, let's have a look at what works for Germans when we talk about Back Market. So here it is, right?
Das ist ein Geschenk. Da ist Vorfreude drin. Und Zeit zusammen. Und innerer Frieden. Aber das Beste an diesem Geschenk, es ist bis zu 40% günstiger. Weil es nicht neu ist, sondern professionell erneuert. Abgesichert durch das Back-Market-Versprechen. Back-Market.
So translation in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's basically like, that's a gift. It's as great as any other gift, but it's cheaper. It's just as good as new. It's like very rational. So it's kind of a joke in the sort of like formulaic, like everything we do is kind of funny, but yeah, it's much drier. It's like a very dry humor, and it goes straight to the rational benefits. So it's classic. What would classically be mid-funnel in the UK works really well upper funnel in Germany.
Okay, so the German special. Moving on to another topic, because we started talking a bit about video, about big screen, connected TV, and like for us, it's always very connected to trust, being able to do video, being big screen. And I wanted, Dave, maybe starting with you to have your take on that. What does it say about your brand?
Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, we are social first, and that's our playbook. That's how we start the conversation flywheel. But when you are moving into new markets and trying to scale new markets like France, Germany, not really UK, but Italy, Spain, probably all the same markets you're going into. You have competitors in the space, but to build the trust, when you see ads in the living room screen, consumers start to trust you because they see you as a relevant, legitimate business, and that goes a long way for us versus only influencer content driving to conversion. And while we're social first, that's really important to have the always-on conversation loop. It is important to be across screens, especially in European markets, to make sure we're building that trust from inside the home or across different screens, as well as telling some of our more RTBs about the brands and what solutions we're bringing forward and what it'll solve for you versus it only coming from an influencer perspective.
Okay, but you mentioned that you plan very short in advance, so you need flexibility even on the big screen.
Always have to have flexibility. That's critical for us. So CTV is obviously a more optimal solution because we can optimize audiences, day part, whatever content, alignment, sports, not sport, whatever, right? So that's really critical for us because we do optimize daily. sometimes multiple times throughout the day across markets. We move big dollars from partner to partner. We're a machine, and so having the agility and the flexibility is also critical for us.
And mentioning the European CTV market, because what we hear also from global advertisers, especially based in the US, a few years ago was that, well, we have a CTV playbook for the US, but we can't apply it to the European market. Do you feel like this is starting to transform and you can really do an agile CTV playbook for Europe? Maybe Caroline?
Exactly. I think we talked about this on our prep call, but the last, I'd say, 2 years, particularly in EMEA, you've seen the EMEA CTV market kind of catch up to where the US CTV market was about 5 years ago. Things like overlays are starting to become more prominent. The ability to buy across multiple publishers at once rather than kind of have to go all in on one from a campaign minimum standpoint. So I think seeing that evolution and being able to kind of take what has worked in the US and adapted, of course, from the local intricacies that we talked about from a targeting standpoint or storytelling standpoint, but in those platforms has become incredibly important. We've really increased our CTV presence because of that, because the storytelling is so necessary from a local perspective, both creatively, both targeted, and as well as the actual platforms, because now you're also seeing kind of the positives of what was happening in the US, but also the fragmentation. And it's really requiring a strategy to make sure that you're in multiple platforms to reach the consumer wherever they are, no matter their age, no matter their preference. So that's been, a fun challenge to kind of work through.
Fragmentation, we'll talk about that again, and I know you have a lot to tell about fragmentation in Europe. But before that, I want to hear Joy on this big screen story.
I'm big on trust building media. Like I think that of course social is so intimate, but there is something about seeing creative in a shared space that I think just very instinctively builds trust. Like, we're in this together, we're looking at this together, this must be a legitimate brand. And people have so little time to interact with an ad, so you're communicating with them on so many different levels. So linear TV, I would say, also, that like on tech adoption, Europe is so far behind the US, but they're very far ahead of the US in terms of adopting refurbished technology. And they're very, they still watch a lot of TV, okay? So you can still really reach them through TV, but you have to, if you're gonna buy linear TV, I feel like you have to know the market really well, Like, I had a TV buy come across my desk for France in August. I'm like, guys, who the hell's watching TV, in August? And my media person said, hey, actually everybody gets back together at night around the TV, like if it's a really hot day, they come in and they have this little ritual. The French are very ritualistic. Everything's got like a time that they do stuff. She's like, yeah, there's sort of like a reconvening, that they do at night. And I was like, oh, okay, wow, who would ever have thought that, You have to really if you're gonna make a linear buy, I think they're high stakes because they're not flexible. You gotta really, really understand the audience. But we're also doing CTV finally too here for the first time. We're about to roll into it. We're really excited because we've had so much success with TV in Spain and Germany. And we have a new film for CTV that I've never seen before. So let's look at it if we can. Let's see what it looks like. It's for the Germans.
And here it is or not? Yeah. Oh, sorry. No.
Looks good.
Oops. My bad. I'm the one to blame.
Wir von Backmarket versprechen dir Technik, die erstklassig erneuert wurde und mit 12 Monaten Garantie kommt. Davon sind wir so überzeugt, dass unser CEO aufs Leben seiner Mutter schwört. Wenn wir unser Versprechen brechen, gehört Valeries ganzes Zeug dir. Das Backmarket-Versprechen.
In a nutshell?
It's basically that, the back market promise is so important to us that our CEO bet his mom's life on it, and that's his mom. Wow. And the URL drives to basically her whole life, and so if we break our promise, you can get something from her life from her house. So there's a full inventory of everything in her home and in her life, and if we break the promise, then you can pick something from the website. We haven't launched this yet. It's still, as you can see, it's a rough cut. But, CTV, it's like, let's make it work for us. Let's try to get people to come to the site. Let's get people to talk about it. And he did it in all languages. My super smart founder CEO did. Obviously, French was the best, but...
Okay, so Caroline mentioned a word that we often hear because we're selling European media. we say at scale and simply, but yeah, you said fragmentation. But a bit of a round. If you had like a few words to describe the European media landscape, what would it be? A word or a sentence? Maybe back to you, Caroline. Like,
Can I use the same word? Because it's fragmented.
yeah, fragmented.
Fragmented, but full of local pride. Period. That, I think, is what we've really uncovered with EMEA, and it's required the strategy around that.
Dave, one sentence to describe European media.
Still very traditional.
Yeah.
Joy, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of in between you guys. I think it's kind of almost comforting because there's still a lot of legacy media here that people still really, really love. And it's, you know, in the US, it's so depressing because all the traditional media is dead, you know, and a lot of these were really trusted. I mean, they're still helpful, I think, for earned media, for, you know, driving exposure and LLMs and stuff like that. But it's cool that there's still such a robust local media ecosystem here. I really take a lot of pride in supporting it. And, you know, I think people do trust it. So getting back to the theme, that's what I like about it. But otherwise, it's a lot of work.
If we go back to your day-to-day work life, so you're like ruling global teams for brands that have local activation. What's the how do you play the, let's say, the articulation between the global playbook and what the local teams tell you they should do? How do you do the arbitrage between the global playbook and the local strategy? Who wants to take that one first?
I can take this one first. I mean, this is the hardest thing, I think, about going fast, about having scale, because, you know, scale is worthless if there aren't economies of scale, okay? So it does require that there be some synergies and efficiencies. And, you know, when people are saying, oh, you know, this doesn't work in my market, I always remind them, like, hey, guys, I worked for Coca-Cola, okay? Just stop it. Like, you know, Coke, beverages are very specific everywhere you go, one formula all over the world, and it's really worked. So the bar actually is very high, even though I've talked about a lot of the changes that we've made. But the way that I like to do this is usually start with a global concept and then look to see which market makes it better, because there's always going to be one market that will make it better. And so then the next iteration we take from the French market, for example, and we redo our whole quality promise based on what the French, you know, concept was. So if you push really hard, I'll give you a shot. You know, you can try it, and if it's really good, then it'll become the global point of view.
Dave.
So the way I look at it is creating a global infrastructure that is rooted in a standardized operating model, and really all predicated around the idea of growth, being growth-minded, and putting the business first, and then going in locally to align the consumer needs with the business needs on it, right? So that's how you get your global footprint. So you know, what are you trying to achieve? What are your goals, forecast sales, expectations, product launches? Then localize it to reach the consumer in the right way to make sure you're delivering in that localized market. I don't think having a media global local playbook is going to work, because they're in many ways two different things. The advancements in the US from tech, where a lot of the new innovation, new ad products launch, you can't scale those most often in global markets, maybe UK, then it'll roll into other markets. So it can't, from my point of view, can't be from a paid media perspective. It has to be from a business operating model perspective globally, and then localize the media based on the consumer need.
Caroline.
Exactly. We're doing something similar, but I think when we reference the 12 months, that's where we start building the global brand concept and being very sure of our mission, what we are trying to sell, what we are trying to get across. And then over those next 12 months, up until, you know, days before launch, is when we're creating those refinements. And I think going back to trust of what we talked about here, the biggest thing for myself and my team is if the local market comes back to us and says, I really don't think this is going to work because of X, Y, Z, I think we need to consider this, we trust them. They are the local expert. While I understand the global brand vision and have, you know, my toe in the water in each of these markets, they are the expert. They're sitting on the ground. They are living and breathing it, both from our internal teams sitting in France, sitting in Spain, as well as, and of course, Italy, but as well as our agency teams sitting in those local markets, both from a digital standpoint, but also traditional. From an out-of-home perspective even, we still do quite a bit of out-of-home in EMEA. It's still a very prominent part of media strategies. They are the ones who can tell me, this isn't going to work because the street is too small, the LED truck will get stuck. I trust that. So I think it has a lot to do also with that trust of knowing they know their market best, and it's finding that balance between the local trust and making sure the global brand vision doesn't get lost.
Okay, so making sure there's great communication and as many back and forth as necessary, I get.
What a good stunt, though, to make sure the truck gets stuck. And then it's just
Yeah,
there.
gosh, great idea.
Shut down the whole street,
think
and then
about
everyone's like, I couldn't get to work today because Solaris blocked the way.
So we'll do a brainstorm session.
You do, you do have to have some humility. Like, I think being too arrogant is really, really dangerous in this world. But separating the legitimate need for localization from the, hey, I got to have some economies of scale here, that's really the art of it. It's hard. But honestly, you have to have good people, good local people you trust. And you have to really trust their point of view. That's everything.
So yeah, hire the right people locally. We're going to our last question already. Goes fast. But my final was, what advice would you give to a new CMO or a new VP of global media director that would enter Europe with his brand? What would you be the piece of advice? Dave, maybe?
Where do I start?
When we did the prep call, you said, don't do it.
I don't remember that. I think it's going in with an open mind. If I think about my brand, the way we operate, like I said, scale, influencer driven, but that's at a macro view. You still have to go in and understand the precision of the market. And to your point, have trusted teams in place. So I guess the advice would be, don't go in thinking you can use the playbook you had before on this business, because it's not going to work. You have to really just take a beat, understand the business, our model, before you can start actioning.
Caroline?
Trust your local team. I think it's so important, and especially if you're coming into a new company, you want to prove yourself. You want to show that your global playbook really can work. But there comes kind of that setting your ego aside and trusting the local team. The other thing that I think is really important in EMEA is meeting your local team in person. There is such, especially in EMEA, a culture around sitting together in person, having a coffee, being able to kind of create that relationship that really strengthens that trust. And so those would be my two. Trust your local team and sit down and have a coffee with them.
That's good. I would tell people that it's going to be harder than you think. I've met a lot of CMOs, who were at D2C companies in the U.S. that scaled so fast. And, then they got shipped over to London and they're like, we're going to IPO off the back of Europe. And I'm like, guys, it's not going to happen that fast, And they never kind of got past the UK, a lot of them. And it's because that, especially in e-commerce, the landscape is so radically different. So I would say it's going to be harder than you think it's going to be if you're not native to Europe. And it's going to be worth it, okay? Because when you master the complexity of Europe, you are seriously badass. And I'm very inspired by European brands that have conquered U.S. brands, especially in the U.S. So one of the brands that really is a real inspiration to me is Booking.com. And they were very, very focused on, they had to master the complexity of Europe before they could go to the U.S. And that has given them so much operational discipline, so much analytical rigor. I find that super inspiring. So it's going to be harder than you thought, but it's going to be worth it.
Well, thank you, guys. I love that everything is going back to trust in the end. Starts with trust, ends with trust. Indeed, Europe is complicated. I think we've built a beach to talk about Europe all the week. So meet as many European colleagues. We have the Italian channels, the Spanish channels, the French TV here. So go mingle, meet them. And I wish you a very great Cannes Lions 2026. Despite the heat, and thank you so much for this talk. I think we can give them a very, very big round of applause. It was very appreciated. Thanks, guys. It was a pleasure to open up with you. Thank you.